Yeah, it's I don't know which time is for me right now. I come from Berlin. Yeah, several things to talk. I really hope you enjoy it. So yeah, my talk is about. Can you hear me? Sorry, it's loud enough for you. Yeah. Okay, louder, even louder. Okay, so maybe I will try it. Can you hear here? Here's better. Yes. No. It's okay. I mean, yeah, you are not. It's not so interesting anyway. So, okay. So, accessible special interactions, right? I'm Christian without H, and it really resonates on me. This, yeah. So, by the way, this is kind of like a tempo for me. I usually speak too fast, right? So this is like a metronome, right? I really need to go slower. Okay. So please send me some signal if I'm going like a too fast. Anyway, so this quote from Tim Cook really resonates on me and how I what is my opinion how I perceive technology. The idea that every time that we have a breakthrough on technology, and not even on purpose, right? It's like we have this idea of like a new type of interaction. We have this idea of this type of technology. And sometimes when we construct new products, we don't really consider the array or the spectrum of diverse people, right? And yeah, Tim Cook itself, it's really proud of the accessibility engineer team inside Apple. And I agree with him. It's like there is a lot of work put in here. And anyway, so yeah, frequently we left in the shadows. Now people that we really need to take in consideration, and let me tell you why, if you don't know already. So, um, Apple Vision Pro, right? We're talking about Apple Vision Pro. I have it here in the floor. I'm trying to not kick it out. Yeah, anyway, so I'm full of stuff here, so I will show in the process. So what I can tell you, right? What you don't know, right? It's like everybody has seen YouTube. But I can tell you something, right? This device on a specific device went to Riyadh like 2 weeks ago. He went to the Leap conference, and we use it for demo, right? It's like showing people what it really means. Now, always the idea is that everybody knows on paper, right? What is this about? We are trying to prove it, to put some, uh, how you will say, like if you have a, yeah, proof, right? Now you know how it is, right? And the thing is, what is important is that it's really a standard, right? It's like we fit it with my face, and I'm in the average, right? So I suppose from these standards, this is a solo M medium loop, and this is the 21 white seal with the W plus sponge, right? And no inserts, no optical inserts, right? So we went to the public and kind of like invited, do you want to test it? Come here. Let's spend 20 minutes on that. But we were also afraid because at the end of the day, it's a really personal device. You don't know the shape. You don't know many things, cultural things, right? Like people is wearing stuff in the head, optic inserts, yeah, many concerns, right? And we were like, is it possible to have all these combinations like in the Apple Vision Pro lab, like going with this huge trunk and having all the, we could not do it, right? So we went with the basic setup. We tested more than 150 people, and it was really surprising that only 2 of them were not able to complete the onboarding, right? So, and by not complete the onboarding, I mean like they went through the whole process, like visually they were able to identify. I don't know if you have seen now the calibration of the Apple Vision Pro that you have to go and pinch for every dot. I'm doing this gesture because I'm mimicking what the people usually do, like kind of like a purchasing, like a chasing the dot. They finished, these 2 persons, they finished the onboarding, and the Apple Vision Pro was like it's not able to calibrate. And this is due to extreme eye conditions, right? So what I'm trying to say is that even if there is like around 300 plus combinations of this setup, plus optic inserts, the standard works for like 90% of the people, which was surprising for me. Like people with some real issues was able. But saying that the common reaction, no, to the Apple Vision Pro, sooner or later, no matter what you show, right? You can show Safari. You don't need to show Alicia Keys or the dinosaurs. You show Safari, it's enough, right? And sooner or later, what is 100% of people is like, wow, right? So this is wow. And the second is like a why. It's like a why we need this device, no? Or what is this device for, right? Or what is the use case, no? Is this really a thing? Special computing is marketing alone, right? So to answer this, right, I've tried many ways to answer. This is my disclaimer. This is work in progress, right? And I have the feeling that this is going to be work in progress forever. It's like anyway. So this is the current state. This is the current version of my answer, which is I cannot really tell you why without asking the question that is being answered by the existence of the device. So why this device exists is the answer of a question, which is how we make computers better, or even why we make computers, right? And kind of works, right? It's like we make computers to solve, to automate, to remove, do like a dual, dangerous, dirty task, like the D's of the robotics. And then if a computer is able to automate the task that we don't want, or we need help, or we need empowerment with it, right? Like we are not able to do it, then how we make a computer that is better at that objective, right? So what do we do, right? And in my point of view, right, this continuous technological chasing of a new form factor, a new type of interaction, is related to answering this: how we make a computer that is better at what it's supposed to do. Okay, so in the case of Apple Vision Pro, to me, it's and probably like many people here, it's a revolutionary device. It's not an evolutionary device, and I think it's a huge step on interaction for many things I'm going to mention on my talk. And also, I think it's one step closer to a future that maybe we designed like 30, 40 years ago, which is like having everything being a computer, being able to interact with everything, and at the same time disappear, the technology itself, like being able to interact with the walls, with the air, and etc. Right? So not only spatial computing is not a marketing fad, in my opinion, it's a evolutionary process to the ubiquitous computing, and it's a revolutionary step for computers to being able to understand what you want to do better. Right? As of now, also to give examples, I'm talking like this because I'm trying to really go slow. So as of now, you have computers that are able to more or less understand your intent, right? Especially like if you have your calendars connected. By the way, I'm a developer, so probably I'm going to be biased to the developer side. But now you have also a device that has the biggest array of sensors that we have in any device, including the mobile devices, that is able to not only understand intent, it's also able to understand context. And the combination of those is what is relevant. So, and then the question is, okay, cool. But does spatial computing work? So it's, okay, I buy one. No, they tell you, no, give me one. But now, can I use this for working? Can I go to the middle of the desert and spawn my setup, and I'm going to be able to work better? So it's not only like being able to do what I can do now. It's like is it worth it? I think it's the feeling at the end of the day. It's like it's worth it to have a spatial computing. It puts something on the table. And the thing is, we imply that yes. Right? So if we say that, okay, we have a device that is better, I think I'm doing it, that is better at the form factor, is better at the context understanding, we are implying that it's better at your efficiency, right? So it means like it understands you better. So potentially, right, it should be, right? So this is all in the claim layer, right? So we are going to go down to the evidence. And then for proving that, for going to the evidence, you have to also make questions, right? Which is like then if we have a computer that is wearable, and we think that wearable is a better device, right, for computing or doing most of the tasks, what is the best way or the most efficient way of interact with that device, right? And in general, I think I jumped it, right? The immediate reaction, and also is another field of study, is that I want to directly interact, like a natural interaction. Also, we are used to, right? We have the iPhone for more than 10 years, right? And we have been educated, no, in the sense like a direct interaction and using your hands and nothing else, right? Is more intuitive. I will not say better, but at least it's more intuitive. You don't have to learn, etc. So the thing is like for explaining the if it's efficient, we have to have a good way of interacting with the device, and a good way I mean like the best way of, right, a way that is better than what we have already, right? If not, again, what is the point if we cannot prove that? So indirect interaction, old school, right? So you work proxy through hardware, right? So you use trackpad, mouse, right? And you have your intent in one side and the trigger and the execution in another side, right? So you kind of like indicate your intent and then you trigger with some meaning, right? That's common Macs, right? Trackpad, mouse, right? Then we have our favorite now, which is kind of also the favorite candidate, for thinking of what we want to do with the Vision Pro, which is go and do it, right? I don't want to really kind of have to think about, right? I want to grab the cube, right, or the base or the IKEA furniture, right? And again, we have a lot of evidence that this is really good, right? So we have been studying like the speed, the refresh, the how it feels, right? But let me go to this is the parenthesis section. So before I go that, but the thing is, direct interaction comes with some limitations, which is basically your reach and the scale of the interaction, right? And on top of that, it seems it's not precise enough. What I mean by this, so if I want to go and place something in the floor, and I need to do it with direct interaction or natural direct interaction, I will need to go and touch the point where I want to do it. And after that, I need to be involved in the manipulation of it. And then that means also like I can really only manipulate things that are at my reach, more or less, right? So also like about the scale, right? So that projects immediately the idea that indirect interaction, even if we perceive it as something old school, is more precise and more accessible by definition. Because it means like basically I could connect any interface in between my intent and the execution, and I will get the same result. So I can get more precise interactions in a bigger scale, in a more accessible way. Okay, so indirect interaction should be then the candidate and default of the device, and it is, right? So that means like probably this is something like we are walking the path that somebody already walked, right? So it's like this is for this purpose. If we want to do something like it has all these marks, we check all them, and we go for indirect interaction. And this is what is enabled by default on the Apple Vision Pro, which is what you see on the advertising too. You gaze and pinch. Your gaze is your pointer, your pinch is your click. Indirect interaction, right? I can look at the infinite, maybe 50 meters, probably not infinite, but I can to the abyss, and it's going to look back. No, that's the joke? Okay. It's not funny anyway. So I'm also not funny in my own language, so don't worry. It's like so you look to whatever distance, and you can manipulate with whatever interface. So that means like I can connect things in between. And the thing is, like, this is the parenthesis. This is what I was talking about. You have to be on the reach of the things, no, the things like even virtual things, to being able to operate in a direct interaction, right? And we need this precision. We need efficiency to also. What we are trying to prove here is that I can use spatial computing for being more efficient, right? So we need the efficiency as a check mark, right? And of course, we need accessible, and I'm not going to say, of course, and assume that you understand why, of course. I'm going to explain the reasons behind that. So, in general, I'm not saying this to somebody that is doing a test, right? So, what I said is basically indirect interaction is a fancy word for using tools, right? So, direct interaction is like using your hands, which is perfectly fine, right? And we want it for several things. But there is some level of precision or scale that you cannot or you don't want to use your hands, right? So you use tools, right? We kind of have a big deal with tools, right? So if you want to kind of take it as, how is it? Copy left. No, it's like open source, the phrase. You can use it. So, but the interesting part, and it's something like it took me like a long time to understand, is that a long time also is relative, right? We have the device for 1 month and a half, right? And we have been testing the device on the lab since February, right? So long means months, right? But what is strange, especially if you try it, right? If you do something in the simulator, then you try on the real device, and you see that gestures are not so obvious, right? Like if you want to rotate, what it means rotate, you want to go and grab. Some people do this, right, and expect to do kind of like a David Bowie into the labyrinth gestures, right? And some people it's like, yeah, this is fine. Or some people try to do this. Anyway, so, but what is interesting of the many things that is interesting is that, should I work? Yeah, should I work, right? So I'm not connected. So also it's not needed. Apple Vision Pro comes by default with indirect interaction activated, but also it comes by default with allow direct interaction. You have to go into your code, like Satoshi showed before, right? You have to define in your component and your input target that you don't want to allow one of the type of interactions, right? You have these big families of like indirect, okay, gaze and pinch, but then you can go and make the gesture, right? Like a tapping out the cubes and things like that, right? And it was like okay, so we have both activated, and then for my orientation and interest, I went and activated VoiceOver on the labs, right? And I was, okay, so this is obviously an indirect interaction mode, right? So it's kind of like a taking over from the indirect interaction of gaze and pinch and using something similar to the iPhone, but it's not the same, right? So that hints that there are other types of interaction. So let me be, I cannot explain it without a flowchart, but it's really smart, right? So the thing is like, we have the family of direct and indirect, but then you can have different types of indirect. And that's something that I could not really materialize until I studied this, right? It means like basically, if you think on the indirect interaction as a tool, then it means like you can use different type of tools to get the same result. So you can switch and instead using this kind of whatever, you name it, you use all the type, like maybe boot instead like a steal, or etc. But all of them belong to this indirect interaction mode. So it really works for me like a okay, indirect interaction mode is all about using tools for interfacing with the computer, right? So HCI, right? So the humans interacting with the computer, right? And the thing is like when you activate carbon dioxide too high at my home in Berlin. Okay. Well, I cannot act on that, I think. Okay, so it's okay. It's the plants. Okay, so when you activate VoiceOver, and VoiceOver is screen reader and VoiceOver has been no forever, which is also another story for another talk, right? We take by granted the existence of this type of accessibility technology, but this is pretty new in context, right? And it has been awesome, the evolution, and that means also we are in a in progress phase. Right? What it can be is what amazed me. So VoiceOver is a screen reader. In general, when you use a keyboard on the Mac, you have shortcuts with the keys, so you can more or less like similar to when you tap, for jumping between text fields. But when you are on the iPhone, because it's a Surface, multi-touch, glass, no haptic, clear physical haptic, you have to do some special gestures to navigate between elements and access elements. But the thing is, a Mac and iOS, iPadOS included, you like it or not, we are talking about 2D, right? So the things becomes a bit more complicated when you are in a special on 3D, and you have to kind of not only represent a hierarchy that you read left and right or right to left, but you also need to represent position of it, right? So it becomes more complicated, and the thing is, when you activate VoiceOver, you're going to see me later, and you're going to see me struggling. When you activate VoiceOver, VoiceOver takes over. It's in direct interaction mode, but it recognizes that there is certain scenarios that even if you are a VoiceOver user, you need the direct interaction, right? So maybe you get stuck, maybe you want to discover. There are many reasons. Also, it's on a spectrum, and it's not about being blind, and it's like a Boolean, right? You can low vision, right, and etc. So you can be half vision. So, anyways, so you have this concept of direct gesture mode on inside the VoiceOver, which is basically enable again the direct interaction, but it doesn't. It's not the same as the indirect plus direct. And if you turn off the direct gesture mode, you go back to this VoiceOver default interaction mode. So why I'm saying all this is because there are many type of tools, right? And when you find something you have to ask why, right? It's why we have so many tools, right? Why we have this level of complexity, right? Why, right? So, design through use, right? So, and this is related to, probably I'm going to say develop, and when I say develop, please understand it in a more global way. So anybody involved on creating these products, right? When I mention develop. So the thing a design through use is a mentality, a framework, a mindset related to acknowledging the plasticity or the flexibility of how variable is the use, how the people use your product or your app, right? So let me give you an example. So this is my daughter. You can. Okay. 6 years old. Her name is Mañana. She feels German, right? And she's really upset because I don't speak so well German. And she has been, so for me, I mentioned because this is new for my culture, right? I was raised in Spain, and we didn't have this process of what she's holding in the hands is a certificate that she is not going to drown if it falls to the water, deep water, right? So you have some courses that you have to really, really satisfy some requirements to get this. I forgot what is my. Okay, so yeah, it's like a sea first. German is German, right? Anybody? So it's like a seahorse patch. It's called, right? So and the seahorse patch means she's able to jump to the swimming pool, like a deep one, go and dive and take something from the bottom and then cross 25 meters, right? Really hard, really, 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 really hard, and so hard that 2 days before I was coming to here, the teacher told us that she was not ready. She was not able to do the 25 meters and cross, right, this without any aid, right? And the thing is, she was teach to swim in a way, I don't know the name. How would you call the frog position when you swim? Okay? Take my word. So the frog style, right? That's now. And she was unable to coordinate. But at some point, like we were picking her up, and she started to swim like a backwards, right? And she was like, "Ah, man, look at that! I can float, I can survive." And I was, "Oh yeah, it's super cool. Like I don't want to tell you that you are going to fail your test, right? But it's super cool that you're enjoying this. So enjoy it, right?" And the thing is, like the teacher saw that, and the next day, the teacher insisted on make the exam and allow her to swim in a different way. And she was able to swim in a different way. So, why I'm saying this? We have to be like the teacher. I didn't realize. I'm not a failure as a parent. I'm not saying that. I didn't realize. It's like I was super concerned about the emotional distress of like not being able to go here. I didn't realize that she was completely able to survive. The thing is, like, she was not surviving the way that it was expected to be, right? And the teacher realized, right? It's like, I don't care how she swims, right? What I want is, like, if she falls, she survives. That's what it means, the certificate, right? And it's like, no, we have to be like the teacher, right? So keep that. And then I love this concept of desire path. Have you heard about? So desire path is kind of like a mechanical erosion, which is something like is used on architecture and construction. It's basically hints, what is the more optimal line to get somewhere, right? So it's probably, this was not really well constructed, but if you take attention, right, probably you want to pave those. No, those are the good ones, right? So this concept is called the desire path. There has many names, but desire path. So unplanned small trail created as a consequence of mechanical erosion. So we have people that can resolve things in different ways. We have people that resolve things in unexpected ways and even more optimal than we thought at the beginning. And then there is material, right? I will give you later the links. Sorry, I didn't put the QRs. I'm a mess, sorry. There is enough information and research about also how the people use technology, right? So the more you need the technology, the more you become creative with technology, because there are gaps, there are unavoidable gaps, especially if you have in this constantly moving, evolving, revolutionary technology, right? It's like we always forget that this part of this machinery complex is not up to speed or compatible or cannot run, right? Something like that. So this is the way that people that uses assistive devices. And the way that people use assistive devices is something like also you have to internalize, is that not in a single way. There is no a canonical answer on this. So there is no canonical disability. There is no canonical answer how you solve what you really want to accomplish. I have something I want to do, what I do. And these 3 steps is like keeping in mind, right? Because also is something like we should bring it to the tools, like to the mindset. Let's go for a framework. I like that work. And people go and first try to make the things do things that are not expected to do in the first place, right? I want to hack this. I want to connect something. I want to, I don't know, who has a HomeKit and 100 devices that are not supported by HomeKit, and they go and they get a computer with with a special bridge, and they run it because they want, right? Maybe not, maybe I'm a geek, probably. But this is also common, right? I want this specific part of technology to do something. Also, context switching, right? I want to kind of like, I'm here with the voiceover, I turn off voiceover, direct interaction mode, direct gesture, I go to Zoom because I'm really low vision, but I'm legally blind, so I go to Zoom, but I don't want voiceover to take over because I can really reach, right? So I'm context switching all the time, and this is also like a pretty common standard, pretty common pattern on how the people use it, especially people with disability. And finally, combinations, right? So I have activated big font size with low transparency plus button shapes and on-off labels and a filter for color blindness. That's pretty common too. So that means like we're starting to get also the feeling that we need a lot of chainable small pieces of features, of functionality. That's something that somebody can take and extend it ideally, or use it independently, like in an isolated way, or concatenate in creative ways. right? But again, anything of this is related to be productive, right? And the thing is, yes. So, and the thing is, also something like I learned not so long ago from my friend Jonathan. He's a great developer. He's from Sevilla. He's blind. He's the lead of the accessibility team on his company. I forgot the name. I will say it. It's like a taxi. Sorry, Jonathan. I will say it probably when I remember. And when I talk with him, it's like he's developer. And I always miss that point, right? It's like we always think on accessibility like allowing the consumption of things. Like I want to create a ramp so you can get there, but I'm not creating the tools so you can create the ramp, right? And production, and spatial computing being this idea of like we want to make productivity and having an interaction, the sensors and the form factor that makes it more accessible, that by default constructs the idea that you can create tools for creating tools in a more accessible way. Let me go for that. And so this is supporting, at least as of now that we have a more productive, because it seems like there is a relation between being accessible and increase the efficiency of production, right? And if we are talking about spatial computing, this is what we want, right? The other day, somebody in the dinner said, like, when we reach 1 million users on the Apple Vision Pro, what is going to be the three first categories, right? And productivity is going to be. There is no doubt on that, right? So that's my answer. So you can. And the thing is, like, now we are in the point that we have these great users that they tinker, right? And we have these great machines, right? That I'm trying to not kick, right? And we developers, people that create products, are in part of connecting these 2 points, right? So I call it the bottleneck. We are the bottleneck, right? And because I didn't find a better word, and so I tried to define it, but the definition is even worse, right? And if you read it in Spanish, it's nothing related to what I'm trying to say, but yeah, you understand, right? It's like basically we create friction in this two-way communication of the humans and computers, right? So when I was younger, I'm this old, right? And this is not even the first version I use. I used this software after 5 years of studying art in Chile, in South America. My father is from there. And I studied liberal arts, really classic, oil painting, I didn't want to know the existence of computers. I didn't like the idea of not feeling the matter and the smell and the toxic fumes, all this artist thing, right? And the thing is, my father is really, go science fiction, the future, go for it. And I started doing things with director, and I was lucky to get the visit on my faculty of this person, which is called Joachim Sauter. His personal website. He's founder of something called Art and Com on Berlin. They are pioneers, really strong, really interesting. They are doing meetups now, even today, right? They are really great in the artist side. And the reason why I mentioned Joachim is because it made me understand some things that took years, to this point, right, to include it, right? He was German, and it has a basic English, worse than mine. And at some point it was explaining, how you construct something interactive, which for me was, wow. So how do you construct something interactive? So you have to think my point of view as a classic painter is I'm creating something to be observed, right? People comes to see my painting, right? People is not coming to transform my painting or create a new painting from my painting, right? At least not in the classic way, right? So for me, the interaction and the open concept of the piece of art plus the spectator, somebody instead being a spectator, being the user of it or interacting with it was okay. But then Joachim was even further, and he told us, There are three types of people, he said. We were like, what? How you dare? It's like, how you dare to say that? When it comes to creating interfaces. And we're like, okay, that doesn't work anyways, no? So he says, yeah, hear me out. So there is explorative people, right? People that are going to be presented by your interface, and they're gonna, oh, what is this? Beep, beep, beep. Oh, this is cool. I can go, oh, here, oh, it's Easter egg. People that is going to enjoy now the story, and are going to collaborate with your interface, discovering, enabling, and playing with it. People that is passive, that I don't care about. I don't want to invest this time. I'm tired. I have been working the whole day. I want to go home, sit, and watch TV, right? Please don't make me think, right? To do that, right? And then there is the scientific people, right? Which is the three type of people. Scientific are taxonomy, categories. I want the things in folders or with tags. I want references, right? All the people that is doing the PayKM system, no? So all the kind of like I want to search my deepest memory from 20 years ago and find it, right? And in context, and I don't want it to be duplicated. I want an instance of it, right? And yeah, so basically when we were like, okay, yeah, it's cool, right? But it still is weird, right? And it was like okay, maybe it's German, it says, right? Like probably it says something like Scheiße. You know, it's like Scheiße. It's German or something. It's when I try to say that there is three type of people, what I want to say is that there are three type of attitudes that a person can have when confronted to your interface. And this is what it happens when, for example, if somebody uses your app like several times, right? Probably it's not the same behavior. Like the first time when, oh, this is cool, new. And the second time is where it was, the bookmark, right? That I saved it, I wanted this dress, right? That why it's not here. So the thing is like, this is the three type of attitudes that Joachim proposed. And he said something like, if I had some tattoo, it would be this, no? Is that any good enough interface has to address at least two of these attitudes. So your interface has to be possible to consume with different attitudes. Okay, I keep that. Probably I will tattoo it. So coming back, right? So that's a neuron, I think. It was on SF symbols. So the I, yeah, thank you. The I on HTI is what is creating the friction. 45, right? 45 minutes or 40? 45? 40? Can it be 45? Can I negotiate? Thank you. Thank you. Are you okay with that? Yes. It's worth it, I promise. So this is for photos and posted. I try to be like kind of like a incendiary, but it doesn't work. So for being able to fix the friction, because we are in charge or we are responsible, we as developers, right, of creating the interface between humans and computers, right? And we detect there is a problem, and we detect it's a complex because humans are a huge array of things. Then we need some framework. And for doing that, I propose that we don't only think on capabilities and features, that we think more on that. So I'm going to be a bit faster. So capabilities is the way that we kind of define the section and the axis of the different type of disabilities, right? It's pretty common, pretty standard. It's kind of a recognized way. Then we have features, right? It's all the tool sets, all the assistive technologies are included in all the devices, right? And that's how far you go when you get documentation of accessibility. It's like, if I want to address something for some blind, I'm going to put something for voiceover, right? And that never works, right? Because it's difficult, the empathy and understand. So what a way to solve this is thinking on task. Right, it's instead thinking on how a blind can use voiceover is what I want to do and how can I make this doable with any tool set, right? With any indirect type of interaction. I don't care if it's going to be voiceover or voice control. What I want to do is give options so that somebody can execute the core function of my product, right? Which is also smart. So how do you do that? Spatial computing, right? We start for spatial computing. This is the set, and we add accessibility. when you add accessibility and you cross it with spatial computing, what you get is immediately a pattern of things that you need to resolve to work in spatial computing with accessibility. Meaning, you need to anchor stuff, you need to place stuff, you need to manipulate the stuff that you place it. So that means you need to search for it, and that means like maybe you want to trigger what is it and then function with it. So you have like 5 big patterns for the basic interactions that no matter which type of product are you making, it's something like we need an accessible alternative for those, right? And that's the point of this. And then it becomes much more interesting, right? Somebody mentioned like, the shared experiences, and that's the next step, right? This is when it becomes interesting, right? Like this in the middle, like this sweet spot, like it's going to be the shared, accessible, spatial experiences and interactions, right? This is how we are going to be able to collaborate, right, in an accessible way. That is going to answer many questions, and that's the next step. But we have to focus right now on the basic, right? The basic in the good sense. We have to solve what you need to do the bare minimum stuff on spatial computing. So, critical task alternatives. Yeah, that's good. So, I mentioned, right, this is photo, 10 seconds. This is the 5 task patterns, right? This is what we have to work on. This is what we need accessible solutions for it, right? This is the components that we need to be able to be used no matter what technology tools that you use, okay? Established relation is about like how I scan my context and I detect where to place things, right? And then how I create something, how you create something if you cannot move or if you cannot see, right? How you then appreciate what you place it, right? This is also changed now with AI. Probably next year we're going to have a lot of AI discussion, right? But it also changed here, how we describe things. How you manipulate them, transform, how you do it, right? And how you activate them. So, yeah, demo. Yeah. By the way, so, yeah. Do you know what is this? Yeah? A lightsaber? No. This is a switch control. So this basically it's a programmable button that it's gonna explode. That you can use and you can interact. It's useful when you have like later if you want you can come and touch it and everything. It's really interesting. So okay. So I think I have to mirror for doing this, and I don't know the volume, so probably it's going to be a disaster. I tried to follow the advice of my friend Tim, and he told me like, never do this on live. Please go and record a video in your room. And I tried, and it was a disaster. So I think it's valuable that you see me fail and struggle, right? Because that means like this is reality. I'm not going to kind of like make it pretty, right? It's like it's difficult and beautiful at the same time, I think. So there is many devices as expected. I'm connecting. And yes, can you see me? Yes, I can see you. Okay, so now this is a cool use case, right? So for example, there's a recurrent feeling, that I have an anxiety, of like speaking in public, right? So, so basically, I'm kind of like now alone myself. I don't have to. Yeah, it's a joke. So, anyways, so when you have the Apple Vision Pro, do you have? Let me ask you something. Can you read this on the background? On the back, can you read this? No, right? And this is an accessibility problem, right? So that means like the content is not something like is available for everybody in this room, right? So where you breach with the inclusivity. So I'm lucky that you say no, right? You say no, right? Okay, yeah. So and say no, please. It doesn't work if not. Yeah, thank you. So I'm going to increase the size, right? I can go and make the font bigger, right? And I can make it even bigger, right? So you can start to see things, right? And maybe, I don't know, I'm going to use button shapes and I'm going to increase the focus. Can you see the outline when I'm looking at controls, right? And if not, I will increase the contrast, right? So we can work with that, right? And I can go over on and on and on the, and this is only one subset small of what it means, like making something that looks trivial, like maybe this information is the most valuable person that can get this information is really on the back, right? It's really, really on the back, and we are failing to deliver this information to that person, right? So we are solving something relevant here with only these options. And then there is it's like a plethora of things. Like, I don't know if the plethora is a word in English even, but a big amount. So the appearance, right? So right now I put it on medium. I didn't want to be so evident, but I'm going to do the windows bigger, right? And this is basically, like a more accessible way, of displaying what I'm going to show. Yeah, right? You can read better? Yes, even with the foveation? Now you have to say yes, it has to work. So, so what I'm showing here is work in progress of trying to answer some of those questions, right? It's like how we place, how we look around, right? So again, this mostly like hear me out. So let me do it in front of you so it's more interesting. I'm going to start with voiceover, which is very common. I'm going to say, Siri, voiceover on. Okay, I need the volume, probably.
Not virtual display. Button.
Okay, can you hear that? Okay. Okay, so yeah, you see. So when I'm looking, my monitor is not mirror, but basically, even if I don't have the context, if I were moving my head every time my focus collides with one of the windows, it's going to announce me the name of the window, right? So that kind of helped me. Also, you don't feel it, but it comes from the direction of the window, as it was mentioned before, right? So I can really know that I have to put my head that direction to start finding it, right? So it's kind of like, okay, I have a basic. Then the gestures, like gazing and pinching doesn't work. What you have to do is like a going for, yeah. I told you it's really hard, right? So look at this, right? So what I do is like a tapping, right? And when I want to confirm, I use this one, right? Or the third one. Okay, so I go next, and I pinch, right? So I have some descriptions, I avoided it, right? And I have a window, I open the window, right? This window is something like maybe I don't want to go there, right? And the thing is like, okay, suppose that I want to close that, right? And I'm not able to reach it, right? Let me try it. Maybe I'm making, yeah. Basically, I can change windows and I can change apps with different combinations of gestures, which gives me the freedom of navigating without moving. So basically what I'm doing now is scanning. Probably you see a line where the origin, right, was, right, this is where I started, right, and this is something like I can make a string that is you hear it when you cross it, right, so I know what is my origin, and it's like a harp, right, so I can do harps, right, where I can cross through them. Then I have something funny I found like just yesterday. There is no way to reduce the opacity. There is no this option on Visionaire. So it's pretty low opacity. But what I'm going to do now is going for placing, right? And what I'm doing now, okay. So basically, what it's doing is the same code that Satoshi showed before. It's like you have a head anchored that is ray tracing to the surfaces, and internally I hear a sound, an ambient sound, when I don't have a valid plane where to position, and when I have something where I can put it, I put some artificial restriction, like only in horizontal places, right? I display it, right? So of course I can. So I can go to the list, and in this list, it's like, of course, it's not working, right? So I can go, because I want to really show the, there you go. There you go. So this is rotors. I want to show like a placing, right? Because I know that basically I have a plane that where can I place, but I didn't find the button. I don't want it. Here now. Thank you. Are you active?
Select all.
Can you go away, please?
Select all.
Okay.
Control center. Next step. Select a group of people
I'm
sitting in rows.
changing,
Next step. Agree. People sitting in rows of pairs and
and it went crazy. Okay.
people sitting in rows
So
of pairs
Siri.
and rows of pairs. Access the tabs. Camera. Out of view. Near top left. Access the tabs.
So I'm looking for the correct rotor.
Destination.
So for example, here in planes, it's a feature that is still not implemented that allows me with the rotors, which I'm activating as a shortcut, I can really select like a different parts of it, right? I really want to go to this app.
People sitting in rows of pairs in front of the projector screen. People sitting in a room.
Yeah.
Access the tabs.
So
Access the tabs. Dismiss context menu.
Siri,
Dismiss context
voiceover
menu.
off.
Tap placement off. Button.
Yeah.
Voiceover off.
There you go. And now it's like basically I'm looking only walls. I'm finishing now. Please, I know I'm seeing you. I want to show only tables, right? So I could basically only place it on the table, right? And for placing it right now, I only have the possibility of activating the button, right? Which is like a pretty non-accessible. But then I have shortcuts, which allows you to work with it. So basically, what I'm trying to solve here, and I'm going to share all this stuff on open source, is that if I go and say like a Siri activate voice control, voice control, please, Siri, voice control on. Yeah, it's ignoring me. Yeah, you are missing that. But anyways, I can jump to the next one. So what I'm doing too is I'm extending an open source project I have, which is an inspector of Reality Kit, right? So basically what I'm trying to do is expose all the information that we are putting inside the components and the parameters and the custom rotors and the physics, and put it in a way that you can display inside an immersive view, which is another accessibility problem, right? If you are mirroring your Mac and you go on immersive, you cannot see it. But if you are blind, you really need the information contextually, right? Or even it's convenient. That's it, right? So this is something like I'm going to release, and what you're seeing here is basically all the hierarchy of the segmentations of the room. So you are going to go to the font is too big, right? I should be more accessible in this sense, right? So all this stuff that is inside, right? So are the planes. So if you see on top, I can see the planes, and then I can see that it's an accessible element, and I can display information of it, right? And I can get much more data, like where is the translation of it, if there is any custom action inside, etc., etc. So creating tools for creating tools and making the tools accessible generates this point. I know that I wanted to show something else, but I think that's enough for this one. So let me final words and I'll let you go. So yeah, I'm not even going full screen or anything. If you're interested, this is the reality check, right? This is the tool that I'm making with my company. It's an open source tool inspector, and it's becoming more and more an accessible inspector, right? It's not only understanding hierarchy by itself, it's understanding the construction and relation of entities and systems at some point, I expect, when I understand them, right? It's still really hard. And on top of that, I led you with the final thinking. This is normally a beautiful bullet. No? Yeah, I can do bullets, yeah. So now is the time, right? And it's always the time, right? I'm finishing, sorry. And it's always time, I'm meaning like if you are going to start doing an app, right? If you are going to start learning this platform, right? It's like now is the time. Embrace diversity, and diversity in the sense of like you don't know the context where your product is going to be used. You don't know the way it's going to be used. And you have to embrace that. That's super cool, right? So you need to really kind of take on account accessibility for solving that question, right? integrate a way of people reporting feedback, right? Sometimes we don't know that people is not able to accomplish stuff, right? And sometimes the intent is misinterpreted, and we need a way to communicate, at least one way, like a down to top. Remember, people tinker, people do a strange thing, especially with shortcuts and stuff. Empower that. Donate your intents. Put your content public, right? It's like, do it. And then accessibility is just good design, right? We use accessibility as an awareness word, but basically it's design, right? If design is ergonomics and we do things for people and people is diverse, then that's it, right? And there is a point that we should call it design and period. And if not, ask Dieter Rams, right? It's gonna talk that. Okay. Yeah, I have to read the notes. To do. Okay. Can I? To do, read notes. Okay. So, the mindset that created this device, natural, right? The question that are answered by the existence of this device, so the questions that are being answered right now are the right questions to have in mind. So, how we make this better, how we make this more accessible, how we make this product, why, right? And at some point, if you adopt this will create the best products that we can create. That's it. Thank you very much. That's me, in general.
Thank you, Christian.
Sorry for the overtime.
Oh, wonderful.